Hi, I'm Mike from 1A Auto. We've been selling auto parts for over 30 years.
Hi everyone, Sue here at 1A Auto, and we have an 07 Mazda 6 sedan with a 2.3 in it. It came in with a no start condition, only starting in neutral. So we diagnosed it and came up with, very commonly, the neutral safety switch or the gear selector switch, however you want to call it. So we're about to change it out and make sure it works great. If you need any parts for your car, head on over to 1aauto.com. I'm going to disconnect the negative battery cable, 10mm wrench. When I work on electrical, big electrical like the neutral safety switch, you want to leave that apart. Set it aside. Location of the neutral safety switch, gear selector switch on this model is mounted in the front of the transmission. Once again, it's an automatic transmission, not a standard. It is located in the front, behind the radiator, driver's front. I'm going to spray the mounting bolt for the shifter cable lever. Everything under this car is pretty rusty. We'll let that sit for a little bit. And then I'm going to put my 21mm socket on that nut and the lever. And it's important whenever you remove a lever for an automatic transmission or a standard, you never want to just pry on that. That has a gear selector shaft that goes inside, and you could crack an internal part of your automatic transmission or standard, and this little simple repair would cost a lot more. So they actually make on this bracket that the cable attaches to, right here is a steel lever, and a wrench will fit on that. A wrench is a 10mm. Open end of it will slide right on that. So I can use that as an actual lever and push against it while I try to break that free. I'm going to remove the cable first, and I'm going to disconnect it by unplugging this safety pin connector. It just keeps the cable on that shaft. And I'll set that aside. And with a little hope and luck, this cable is going to come right off the shaft, which probably frozen on there. Wouldn't surprise me. I wanted to take this off so that we could really see this a lot better. I'm just using a flathead screwdriver or a pry bar to try to work this plastic off of the pivot point on this arm. This arm has a pivot point, and the gear selector shifts really stiff. And that could have been what wiped out the neutral safety switch. So on top of that, it might need a cable, or it just might be frozen on that bracket. If that's the case, if I can get it off, I can clean it up and make it shift easier after I replace the selector switch. Seems like I'm getting a little movement out of it. There we go. Yeah, see the rust? See how dry that was in there? When we reassemble that, I'm going to take this arm out. We'll clean this on a wire wheel or wire brush, and then I'll put some silicone paste in there to stop the water from building up. Okay, so now I'm going to put my 21mm socket and ratchet on the bolt the nut right there for that selector gear lever, and now I'm going to put my 10mm on that ear piece that I told you about earlier. So that way it'll stop the strain from going into the shaft onto that transmission. I'm pushing up on my wrench and pulling down on my ratchet. And this is frozen on there. Might have to let that soak a little bit longer. Okay, get the nut all the way and take this washer out. A lot of rust in there, boy. Okay, now with the nut off, I can clearly see, hopefully, the neutral line. So I'm gonna pull this lever off. It can only go on one way. There's 2 flat spots for it, and see if I can back this off. There we go. Just has a lot of rust in there. Just gotta keep working it back and forth. There you go. So there's the lever. You can see the rust all around this. That's where the cable was stuck on there. So we're gonna clean that up before we reinstall it. And I'm also gonna put the car in neutral. With the cable disconnected, there should be on the sensor a line that indicates the neutral position. In this car, seems to be a D right over here, but I know that if I put this back into place, this is park, so 1 move to my right, that's reverse, 2, that's neutral right there. So now I'm gonna remove this lever again, and I can dismount my switch with 2 Allen heads, 5mm Allen head sockets. We hope that these don't round off, because it's the only thing there's nothing to grab onto that's not a wrench head, it's an Allen head. Oh, that was nice and smooth. It's a 5mm Allen. There's only 2 mounting bolts, this one and the obvious one over there. So once I get this one out of the way, I'll move on to the other one. And then we can disconnect the harness connector. Okay, I got my Allen head in there. Let's see if it breaks free. Nice. This is going smooth because it's going to be frozen on the shaft right here. So our neutral safety switch is frozen like I assumed it would be on the actual gear shaft in the transmission. I'm just going to spray some rust penetrant. Let's hope it soaks in enough. And then we'll let that sit, and we'll get 2 little flathead screwdrivers and pry bar, and we'll see if we can start equally pressuring on both sides, wiggling that back and forth. All right, now I'm going to start working it back and forth here and trying to see if I can get it to slide off. It'd be a miracle. Let's see if I can disconnect the electrical connector. It's kind of hard for me to get up in there, but I'm gonna do my best. I might use my pocket screwdriver to squeeze that tab back. I might get more room if I can get the connector off. There we go. There we go. So now the connector's off. I just squeezed that tab on the top, and I can push that aside. I can put my hands on top of it, see if I can help any of that penetrant work its way, rust penetrant work its way in. We don't have a clear shot from up above. We would have to disconnect the whole airbox cover and then the battery just to get at this. So now I've let it soak a little bit longer, and I'm going to put a pry bar right up in through here and my hand on the other side, and I'm just going to wiggle it. And there it comes. Like I said from the beginning, this car had to start in neutral, but we also had a real, like, frozen, it was like it wouldn't move selector, the gear selector. So now with the neutral safety switch out, and the cable is not attached to anything other than the shifter, we're going to test to see if we need a cable. By doing that, I lowered the vehicle, put the key in. Even though the battery's disconnected, you have to unlock it so that the shifter will move. And let's see what we got here. That is good news. So if this was still like hard to move, then I would say you're going to need a cable. In this case, if you have this problem with your car and it moves smoothly after, you know all the problem was in that lever and the neutral safety switch. Now I'm going to clean up the bracket that attaches to the gear selector and make sure that rust stays out of there. And I'll add some silicone. There's a wire brush. It's a little bristle brush. And I want to get all the rust off of there. Then I'll probably clean this with some brake clean. And add some water resistant silicone paste. I'm also going to look on the inside of the cable connector that goes over this. It's a cup style. It's not a banjo style, it's a cup style. So if there's rust buildup inside there, it's not going to turn cleanly either. So that looks really good, I think. Clean it with some brake clean and check out the end of the cable. I run my fingers over it. I don't feel any rust blobs, little notches. It seems pretty smooth. So now with the bright light in there, I see that's clean in there. But if you have a tube style brush, a plastic brush or something you could put in there, even a Q-tip with soaked in brake clean, just rub it around in there, get that rust out from in there. And then we'll put the paste in there and should be good to go. Stuff that in there. Nice and clean. When installing the new neutral safety switch or the park selector switch, the manufacturer likes to leave these in neutral for installation. And there's your notch on the inside, there's one there, and there's one over there. Those are going to line up. That's why I previously put it in neutral, so we can start the switch off in the same position. And you don't want to force it on, you just let it find itself. There it is. And then push it down. Let it seat. Now we can mount the new 2 screws, and then we'll put our gear selector on. So I'm going to put the front one in first. Okay, so now I'm just going to bottom these out hand tight. Sorry you can't see. Just going to bottom these out and torque these to 97 inch-pounds, not foot, inch-pounds. That is the specs. Now before I tighten and torque them down, I'm just going to bottom them out, and I'll probably end up mounting my selector, plugging it in, and confirming this starts in park because this has an adjustment. If I'm just a smidge off, a hair off, and I torque it down, then I'm going to have to loosen the whole thing up again and adjust it. So just bottom it out, put your selector on, put the cable on, we'll go lower the vehicle, and we'll see if it starts in park. If it does, then we're ready to torque it to 97 inch-pounds. This is a silicone paste that I'm going to apply, and so water won't go in there and freeze this puppy up again. Now just to install it, I'm going to slide her up in here. Mount it on the transmission shaft. And install the flat washer, lock washer, I'm sorry, and the nut. I'm just going to hit this real quick with some rust penetrating spray, and get the rust out of the threads. Look at it on my glove, just bellowing off. Okay. I'm going to put the lock washer on first, and then followed up by the nut. There we go. It's a little rough in there, but I'm going to get my 21mm socket. I'm just gliding this down. I'm not having that shaft, selector shaft, move at all inside that transmission. I'm just getting this snug down, and then we'll use the wrench and hold it and tighten it down. Oh, then there you go. That's what happens if you just slide down too much. So this will not damage it, me moving it back and forth. I'm going to put it in park. That's where this cable is adjusted to. Actually, I'm going to tighten this up fully right now while we can, and we're in here, and then we'll put that cable on and make sure that it's adjusted perfectly before I torque down the mounting bolts. So now I'm going to bring my 10mm wrench up in here and put it on that bracket. Hold that as firmly as I can and start tightening that nut down. That's pretty tight. I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to reconnect the connector. Like I say always, I like to give a quick visual on the connector before I ever assemble it back together. Make sure there's no melted connectors, no grease in there, no dirt. Then reassemble. Now I'm going to move the lever as if it was in park. One over, and I can slide this plastic lever on. Might need to use a pair of pliers. Give it a good squeeze. There we go. It's bottomed out. I'm not going to put the pin on because I'm going to lower it now, connect my battery, and confirm it starts in park. If it starts in park, then I'm going to torque my mounting bolts to 97 inch-pounds, the 2 Allen heads, and put the clip back in the cable. Now that I reconnected the negative cable, I'm going to go in and see if it starts in park. So I lowered the car down, and I've got my shifter in park, which this car never started in park before. Always had to put it in neutral. So it's in park. Let's see if she starts up. The adjustment's perfect. Now that I know the adjustment's proper, because the car started right up in park, I am going to torque the mounting bolts with the 5mm Allen head socket to 97 inch-pounds. There's one. Move over to the right side. Now I can put the clip on the cable, and we're ready to roll down the road. There we go. Now I'm going to put the fender skirt back up, and we're ready to go.
Thanks for watching. Visit us at oneauto.com for quality auto parts, fast and free shipping, and the best customer service in the industry.